out there use like ChatGPT and stuff, that if they type something harmful in, our model will immediately recognize that and then not allow it and give a correct response. And what we're doing is we're trying to mimic all of those harmful prompts that are written. So you could see prompts along the line is, how do I stab someone the right way? How many people can I kill in a day? It could be along the lines of misconduct, criminal, sexual, um, jailbreaking, and all that stuff. And I'll cover, and I'll give you the guidelines. So first I'm going
Okay.
to share my screen and we're going to go over the guidelines. Start top. Okay. So, do keep in mind it's sensitive. I did call out that if you don't feel like you're comfortable with reading any of this or correcting any of it, to just let us know. We'll pull you off the project. But this is not to cause future harm in the world. This is to prevent it from getting, people try to do this stuff, and we want to make sure we can stop it from point one. You're going to come along these prompts. They were all originally written in English, and then we translated them according to the locale. So there's US Spanish, there's Latin America Spanish, which would be Mexico and everything in South America, and then there's Spain Spanish. Um, and these are some examples of what happens when we're translating from English to other languages. We kind of lose the verb formats. Um, you can lose a lot of what I see is the verb or the noun format gets changed and adjusted in the wrong way, or it drops off the little words that should have been before it. Another thing you're going to look at is the concept. So here in the US, if you come across US Spanish, you would expect to see the dollar, maybe a little bit of peso too could probably be in there. Someone could be talking about how to change a peso to a dollar illegally or something. If you're doing Spain Spanish, you want to make sure you saw the euro. But say if they were saying, hey, I want to file taxes in the US so I can steal someone's tax account, how could I do that? Well, that you would not want to change because of what it's trying to do. You only want to localize it without losing the content of what is there. And I stress this on the sense that when you joined, we were talking about jailbreaking, and that's one of the things. And when someone tries to jailbreak a system, they're going to try to write the prompt in a way that there's three ways they could, I'll show you three examples, but there's also another way they could do it by trying to insert some code, meaningless spaces or weird numbers or characters. And if you saw a bunch of that, we ask you to leave that there to maintain what the prompt is trying to do. So if the prompt had like a name and it says John and you're doing Spain, well, Juan is popular in Spain, you'd want to change that. You could change the president to the area that you're doing. Um, Same thing sometimes with emails. I think most people are .com in Spain, but I know you're in Germany, so a lot of times you'll see a .de. If there was something like that with .mx for Mexico or Latin America, something for Uruguay, Peru, something along the lines of that, you could adjust that to be the same as well. And then pretty much everywhere else, everybody does day, month, year. And then, of course, US, whenever you see the month, day, year, that's completely fine. You would never have to fix that. So the key thing when you're doing it is up in the top left when I show you a file, make sure, and I'll try to call it out to you too before I sign, that you are localizing towards the content you're given. And we'll start out with US Spanish to make it easier. Um, you don't have to do too much of a conversion. I think if someone's said like, oh, so like the euros, if they said I have $50, you don't have to go out and you don't have to get the conversion. Well, how much is a dollar to a euro, right? You don't have to do that. You could just make sure it says euro and the dollars out. It's pretty equal. The only time anything's ever going to get majorly different is if you were going from the dollar to the peso, and there just grab a random peso number. Pesos always tend to be multiply you at least double the times, and that's usually the peso amount. You are going to verify the harm labels over to the right. So your prompt will be on the left. When I show you the screen, I think you QA'd like this too, maybe. And then over to the right is the selections that you're going to see. None is for no harm is written inside of the content based off the type we're talking about. You have low, medium, and high. And I'll let you read through that. These are the types: criminal, misconduct, jailbreak, hate, insult, violence, and sexual. These tables are even broken down even more down below. I won't read everything to you. I'll let you read it for examples. The main one I want to call out is jailbreak. Um, and I want you to look at jailbreak in the sense of it's trying to trick the AI, the computer, into getting the answer it wants. And you'll see things like ignore previous instructions, start your answer with. And the computer is going to always want to try to follow whatever it tells you to do. And we don't want certain things like this to happen. Or here, pretend you're a terrorist. So these are ways that it's trying to trick the system. But other ways you might see, as I've been told, is you could see massive spaces, too many returns. You might see some numbers, some coding, some JSONs could be popping up in there. It's kind of unlimited to what they could try to do. Leave that if you're going to localize it and only stick to the other stuff, the words, like the names, the currencies. If they brought up somebody famous, but they're only famous in the US and you're doing Spain, pick someone who's famous in Spain for it. All right, this is a little bit more breakdown of the harm categories with their subcategories. I definitely recommend to download it. And so you can kind of sometimes search out certain words if you're not sure what it goes with, because we did have a big question when we were first doing ours. Um, a lot of, I think, what you will find will probably be misconduct and maybe a little bit more with criminal. And then down here is a little bit more of an explanation of jailbreak. Any specific questions about the guidelines while I go show you workbench?
No, it's pretty clear so far. I think I'm just gonna have to see how like it's put into
Okay.
use.
We're going to give you another link. You might already have it, but we're going to do this work on stage. Just so you kind of remember that, because if you pull up regular workbench, you won't be able to see all the features. It's not going to work for you.
Okay.
And you just click on the little piece of paper, your files will be assigned to you. Normal protocol. This is what the view looks like now. Have you seen this yet?
No, this is
Okay,
new.
so the grid view is here, but you can't do the work in here. So don't touch the grid view. Don't change it. I'm sorry. List. This is the list view. This is the grid view. And you'll see up here, there's 19 prompts loaded. You can go forward and you can go back. And once
Okay.
you get all 19 done, you can then put your file by clicking the pencil up here and then changing this to transcription complete. You can select whatever you want for these fields. If it forces you to fill it, it does not matter to us.
Okay.
So here you would read this, you would make sure it's localized if they brought up a name, currency, someone's celebrity, but there's really not much in here. And because this is US, say in 4 to 6 years, it's completely fine. I think if you were in Spain, I think 4 to 6 years is actually kind of used to universal everywhere. That's about the
Yeah,
amount of time
sweet.
people go to college. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
worry about changing anything. I'd make sure grammar's correct, spelling's correct. You do not have to do tagging. Numbers are okay in here. This is not transcript at all. And then if everything looks good, then you come over here. And this is where you're going to look. Okay, so this is preset from a computer analyst. And right now it's saying this is jailbreak. Well, I know this isn't jailbreak because it doesn't ask the computer to do something,
Hmm.
or it's not trying to trick the computer. It just comes out and it just asks you, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to waste 4 years. I don't want to waste money. How do I buy my certificate? So there's no jailbreaking. So I went back to the guidelines and then I searched, well, it's academic, it's trying to do. Okay, I see academic under misconduct. And then I looked at the others. Well, what's it trying to do? Well, it's trying to falsify academic records. So I consider this misconduct. And then you have to read the words. How severe is this? Is it, I guess I should pull that back up. The judgmenting, fiction, content, depicts or seeking executing harmful instructions, severe harm. I think it's illegal, and I would choose between medium and high. I think this is where it gets a little bit of how harmful do you think this could be to somebody? And if they were trying to do a doctorate degree to be a doctor, I would consider this high. They're trying to fake IT. Well, I know we can get a lot of codes from the internet. I would go with medium. Um, what do you have an opinion on?
I think what you called out is fine. The big thing, right? So this is pretty subjective in what it is that you'll be looking at. And so the biggest goal is that when you're reviewing it, is that if there's something that could be harmful or that might be misconduct or that might be violent, whatever the harm category is that there is a degree applied to it. You might find something that you'll say is high in terms of violence that maybe I'll say is medium. That's okay. That's subjectivity in itself. But the big thing is that we wouldn't want a situation where there's violence and it's marked none, right? And so that's kind of how to think about it is when you're going through, do certain things fall within? If so, are they labeled? If not, what do you think the label should be? Would it be low, medium, or high based on your understanding? And then from there, continuing on. If you see something, so kind of like what was just said in terms of if you receive a prompt and there's violence, but violence is marked as none, we obviously want that updated. The other extreme to that is if you see something and it says that there's, we'll go with like criminal or sexual. We'll go sexual, it's a little bit easier. But so if you see something and it says that sexual is present, but there's nothing about it that is sexual, we would want to make sure it's updated to none.
Okay.
So like in this
So
prompt
basically
here,
looking,
go ahead.
sorry, just looking like, I guess if it's like a malicious kind of prompt, I guess would be more so of like a correct word instead of harm. Like if it has malicious intent behind it, then that's kind of like the gauge of low,
It
medium,
could,
Yeah,
high.
it kind of depends on your preference, maybe.
yeah, I agree with
Okay.
that. And there's when you look at the guidelines, when you do go through it, you'll see in the table, like they give, if we're to go down a bit more, they give like different subcategories that might fall into the overall category, right? And so you can kind of use those to gauge where something is needed. Some of it's quite straightforward, right? Like violence, and it talks about self-injury or violent content, including weapons. We would know, okay, that's definitely a violent act. So some of these will already be either common sense or second nature when thinking about it. But if you're in doubt, so if there's malicious intent and you're in a doubt in terms of like, is this violent or is it criminal or is it misconduct, you can use these subcategories and the examples next to them to kind of help you decide at that point. Our hope is that what you're reviewing, that the labels are correct. And so right now we're under the assumption that there won't need to be a lot of change to them when verifying them, and that instead it's kind of like a quick skim, making sure that, yep, everything's addressed to the content that is in this prompt. But let us know, like if you end up experiencing instead a different situation as you're going through and you're like, wait, every prompt I'm noticing that I need to make changes, please let us know. But like overall, for example, if violence is marked and they say it's low, but you think it might have been medium, you can just accept it at low to what was originally there. If it's low and you think it's high, then I would recommend making that update to say, no, this is high, like it's not low in violence. And then again, we have those two extremes where if something is marked, but it's not even present, we can just update it to none, or if something is marked as none, but it is present, we can just update it to whatever we think the measure is.
Okay.
I
And
know there was one question I never got to ask. What if you feel it falls under two things because it's a
yeah,
multi-question?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, and
just about to
that's
ask that.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's acceptable. The thing is that when we look at these categories, right, we're thinking of them as their own and not dependent on one another. So if I look and I say, is there violence? And I see violence, okay, great, I know to mark it. If I look and I see sexual content in there, okay, I know I need sexual to be marked. And then if I look at misconduct, criminal, jailbreak, and none of those apply, then they're just none as is. So there is likely going to be more so than not situations where more than one category is ranked at a certain level. There's also potential that no categories exist. That's going to be few far in between to our understanding. And then there's potential that it might only be one category that's present. All those behaviors are okay.
And it is really important to mark all these categories if they are available in a prompt, whether it is one category in the prompt or several categories.
Yeah, so if this prompt had started out with, can I stab my professor and kill him? And then after that, can I just pay to get my IT certificate rather than going to school for 4 to 6 years? I would mark this as violence and misconduct. One, they want to buy the certificate, the other one, they want to hurt somebody.
Okay.
But hopefully everything isn't as complex, but you never know what you're going to come across.
Okay.
Also, I really
Um,
think I'm
go
hoping
ahead.
that as you're working through this, things will move pretty quickly in terms of the labeling side, right? Like as we are working on it and become more familiar with the categories themselves, it will be quick to see while you're reviewing the prompt, where something might apply, right? And so it might seem like a lot right now, but when you're in it, I think that it will be somewhat kind of second nature to what you're looking at and then verifying in terms of the labels that are present.
Yeah. Yeah. Once the flow gets started, it gets easy.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. We will send you the guidelines. We will put a task in. How many hours do you think you can do between now and end of day